Professor Iyorwuese Hagher is the former Nigerian High Commissioner to Canada. He is also the former Nigerian Ambassador to Mexico. Professor, in your widely read letter to President Muhammadu Buhari over Fulani Herdsmen killings on Benue people, you did say the president will be remembered as a genocide president. Why do you think President Buhari is complicit?
Well, actually, I gave him a choice. I said that if he does not rise up and deal with the situation, then what has happened, the Benue genocide, is so gruesome, so gross, so reprehensible that the victims' family and Nigerians will remember him as the man under whose watch a gruesome killing of citizens took place, a genocide took place. And there is no question that the most sacred responsibility of any government in any nation is the protection of the lives of the citizens. And when citizens are killed in this type of manner, and the president shows a remarkable passivity, seems unconcerned. In fact, the day they were burying the victims, the president was running for a second term. It is he who will determine whether people will remember him as a genocide president or not. But what has happened, if it continues unchecked, if it shows insensitivity, if it continues in this like manner, I guess that the whole international community will remember him as the man under whose watch gruesome genocide took place in Nigeria.
You predicted this attack. In a private letter you wrote to President Buhari, you actually did say 18 months exactly there will be an attack on Benue people. And after your letter, I think it was 17 months to be precise, this attack happened. What do you know then? What did you know before now?
It's so difficult to predict what happens in the affairs of men. I happen to be studying the terrorism in the Middle Belt since the year 2013 in my capacity then as the director of the African Leadership Institute in the United States of America. Then, as I continue to do research and study the phenomena, President Buhari comes into power in 2015, and there's an upsurge. And the more I studied it, I became totally alarmed. And I thought, now, what do I do about this? Do I make intellectual capital? Do I somehow publish it, or do I, as a former envoy of this country, reach out to the president and show him the trends? What I saw was that there will be a full-blown genocide when within the 18 months from that 2016 to February 2018. That did happen, that it's in January this happened. And so I opted to be confidential. I wrote to President Muhammadu Buhari, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And I intimated him of my worries about the rising trends, the intolerance that was happening and the breakdown of intergroup relations and considerable motivation for the genocide to take place, and then the availability of arms, and there was so much going on within the middle belt of Nigeria. So
did you get a reply from the president after the letter?
The letter was written in July, and I got a reply in August from the Office of the Chief of Staff to the President, thanking me immensely for the letter, the memorandum, and assuring me that everything was being put in place so I didn't need to have any fears. So I continued to watch, and I saw attempts being made to contain this. The problem was the more I watched, the more I realized that there wasn't enough being done, because Nigeria seemed not to have looked at the problem with enough seriousness, or they may not have thought that the genocide was imminent, or maybe some other reason that maybe they didn't even take me seriously. I don't know, but I was really very excited that I had a reply, because many times people wrote to presidents and they never as much as got acknowledgement. I did get an acknowledgement, and I was quite excited.
You called the Miyetti Allah group a terrorist group. What is the difference between the Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association and the Miyetti Allah I have to take that again.
You have to take that again, because I don't also know the difference.
Okay.
Essentially, I do not think there's much difference between the herdsmen, terrorists, who have been recognized the world over as the fourth most terrorist group organization in the world, herdsmen. I do not know the nuances, the differences, because the Miyetti Allah keeps changing. One day they have a website, the following day the website is taken down, and so we do not know. What my letter has not, but both of my letters have not done, is to point a finger at the Fulani, because the Fulani are a great ethnic group. They are wonderful in administration, and they have, over the years, shown remarkable dexterity in political maneuvering. They are able to do so many incredible political things, but it is wrong to profile a whole group and say the Fulanis are behind this. Certainly, I am from northern Nigeria, from northern part of Nigeria. I'm a Christian in the north, and I want Nigeria to be united. I want the north first and foremost to be united, because the north is a remarkable area. Out of the 600 different nationalities in Nigeria, over 400 are in the north. And in the past, the founders of modern Nigeria, like Ahmadu Bello, used very cohesive methods. It's a Fulani too. They used cohesive methods to bring the north together, the Christians and the Muslims, but not so today. The north is sharply divided between progressive forces that want an educated north, that believe in female education, that believe in an Islam that is tolerant, that is tolerant of other people and other religions. And there is another north that is very much pre-modern, almost like a Taliban mentality in modern Nigeria. And this is a shame, because if the retrogressive part of that North becomes a dominant ideology or is in charge of a government, things certainly get scattered. And I am not sure which part of this North President Buhari is at the moment, because it is frightening to me to watch his body language in light of gruesome genocide that has taken place. It's a crime that has taken place, and I don't know which of the Miyetti Allah. There is no difference between them as far as I'm concerned.
The Sultan of Sokoto have referred to the killer headsmen as foreigners seeking to create chaos, while the Inspector General of Police did say that it's actually a communal clash, which is members of communities, apparently. Do you agree with these opinions?
I support the Sultan of Sokoto, and I consider the Sultan and the Emir of Kano, who are supposed to be patrons of one of the Miyetti Allahs, as progressive forces in the North. They want a North that is sensitive to a Nigeria, a united Nigeria. They know that a united and modern Nigeria will be beneficial to the North as well. I have, in my letter to the President, clearly, without consulting the Sultan or ever hearing about what you just said about him, told the President that research has shown there are various forces that are operating. Indeed, the Fulani as an ethnic group is insulated. I do not want to even bother about calling them part of this crisis. But the Miyetti Allah have an army, whether they hire it out of the people that are trans-border. I call them trans-border army. And they hire them. They are all over West Africa. And anytime they are hired, there's a form of complicity at the border, because there must be complicity for them to be entering Nigeria's border at will. The borders are porous, there's no question about it, but certainly there must be complicity, because the President and the security agents know how bad this is, the situation is, if it's not controlled. And their responsibility is to control our border from these people coming in, camping, and there must be surveillance. They must know about the movements of these people. So I accept the explanation of the Sultan, and I am at pains to wonder why the Inspector General of Police, immediately the genocide took place, proffered a solution. He said this is a communal clash, almost as if he's diverting attention from the heinous crime of genocide that took place, because it is a diversionary, and he was quick, very quick to say it's communal clashes. Yes, there are communal clashes all over in the country. Are they desirable? The responsibility of government is to ensure that there's peace and harmony. The responsibility of the citizens is to live in peace with one another. But if they cannot live in peace, then the responsibility of the police is to contain whenever communal clashes break down. The issue of the intolerance of communities is still a build-up to the genocide. So you know that if you don't contain communal clashes, they will lead up to something. So the Inspector General was not being very honest. He said communal clashes without first going down to the place and investigating. If he knew that communal clash was going to cost so many lives, he ought to have prevented it and not come after it had done to say, after all, it was a communal clash. Communal clashes are not permitted in our constitution.
The Miyetti Allah Secretary, Gakos, has openly taken responsibility for the killings in Benue. He attempted to justify what had happened to the killings of over 80 people with the stealing of about 1,000 cows. And as I speak, he has not been arrested. How does this make you feel?
It feels terrible. It feels terrible because he has also said that we should expect more bloodshed. And of course, in my letter to the president, I had forecasted that the genocide will come. It has been coming in progressive stages. If you go into Benue, the area between Benue and Nasarawa State, and then in Agatu area of Benue State as well, part of it, the demography has shifted. Fulani herdsmen have settled. There are herdsmen that have settled. This takes place after the killings. Whoever kills them, whether it's a Miyetti and the foreign elements, mercenaries that come, the beneficiaries are the Fulani herdsmen settle in. And this is also very evident in plateau states of Nigeria and part of Taraba. So I feel horrible because impunity breeds resistance. And if the people feel that the government that they voted into power cannot protect them, these people more than likely will seek to defend themselves. After all, nobody wants to sleep in the night and be butchered while he's sleeping. And it is a very sad thing because the thief people are more than capable of defending themselves.
Now, on defending themselves, that takes me to the next question.
No, I have not answered this question.
Okay.
I said they are more than capable of defending themselves in the past, but they have been pacified because in the past, when they accepted democracy, they were fighting to have their own states. They were fighting to have a say in government, and past government used to give them a say. So they said there was no reason to resist. But at the moment, it's not just the thief. Anywhere in this country that herdsmen have attacked the local communities, those local communities have risen up to find arms, which are proliferating. So if there's somebody outside this country who is planning this destruction of Nigeria, he has almost attained that because the whole society has become militarized. So it's very frightening. I'm worried if the Miyetti are not arrested because they are still boasting. And the progressive nature of this genocide is that it will continue if there's no rule of law in this country.
Now that takes us to the next question.
Sure.
On defending themselves. About 73 publicly buried and the whole world watched. 80 people said to have been killed according to these reports by organizations like the AFP. 4,000 people displaced as I speak, according to the National Emergency Management Agency. Prominent people from your state, like Senator Wako, General Onoja, they've now said that the Benue people will have to defend themselves. And some of them are suggesting retaliation. to the attacks that has happened. What's your position on this? Do you think the Benue people should defend themselves?
I am a pacifist. I do not believe in bloodshed. I believe in the rule of law. If a government is incompetent or is unwilling, or if that government is complicit, then that government ought to be shown its way out. That government should have lost legitimacy and authority, and the vote is the only way I believe in the solution of problems of this nature. What has happened has happened. Recriminations, fighting, revenge can only lead to blood feuds endlessly. You kill us today, we kill you tomorrow. Endless blood feuds created in a country that I love so much. No, I am not in support of retaliation. I'm not in support of, yes, in a way, self-defense, certainly. If and the thief can do this very well with their bows and arrows, and there's no single thief household where there's not a retired soldier. The thief and the Igedes and the Idomas and the Agatus can together raise one whole division and march wherever they want to march in this country. But to what purpose? To the destruction of Africa's biggest democracy? To endless fights and wars? We need peace to grow. We need peace to have a dynamic nation like Nigeria take its rightful place in the Committee of Nations. And it all boils down to a leadership that is caring, a leadership that watches phenomena and is able to nip problems in the bud.
The issue of contention here has been, especially for the Mieti Allah group, has been the open grazing prohibition law enacted by Governor Otom. Neighboring states of Nasarawa Almakura, who is also the governor of APC, and the governor of Plateau State, Lalong, they've all openly said the problem itself is in the law. Do you think this law should be repealed?
There is no law that is permanent. But I feel terribly offended by these two governors of two neighboring states who make these funny, tame, and lame accusations. And they usually do this when they visit Aso Rock. So I do not understand, and I actually pity them because they are playing a script that is dangerous for the country. Nasarawa State is adjoining Benue. I did not include Nasarawa State in the report that I sent to the president as one of the states where genocide was possible. Because Nasarawa State is the adjoining state from where the terrorists camp and move into Benue State to attack. They don't come from heaven. And they are not within the community, regardless of what the Inspector General has said. As for Plateau, I do not understand why the young governor will be so insensitive to the plight of his own people. We need to have a solution. When the Benue State government was enacting the ranchers, the anti-open grazing bill, I personally did not approve of it at first, because when he brought in the solution of ranch, and I looked at the ranch, it's so expensive to establish a ranch. And I said, oh my goodness, how is this going to play out? But the Benue people, having studied, preferred the expense to one life lost. There's no guarantee whatsoever if, as long as you do not enact this law, the Benue people's lives were continuously at danger. There was hardly a month that passed that you didn't have altercations between herdsmen and the farmers. And it's not the indigenous Fulanis of Benue, because Benue has its own indigenous Fulanis that live there. They live with us. They have their cattle and cattle market, which is very, very well patronized. They know their cattle routes, where their cattle move to their places to drink water, and where their cattle come back to stay within the pens. We have no problem with that, but there is a plan, there's a deliberate plan to dispossess the people of land. There's a deliberate plan, it is being orchestrated. Whether it has a religious ramification, I do not know. But the nuances of it is that wherever, whenever these places in the Middle Belt where there is a large Christian population and the population is dependent upon farming, there are crises like this. But I do not think that we should make it a religious thing at all. The truth of the matter is that corruption, lack of planning by past leaders has led to a breakdown of infrastructure that ought to have been put in place for the herdsmen in this country. The Sahara has steadily been moving southward, and in fact, Nigeria has lost over 38% of its arable land in the north to the Sahara Desert. And the previous leadership, our founders and the previous leaders of this great country had so many irrigation plans in the north. And these irrigation plans, these dams, some of them have been built. Some of them were built where there was never a day that it had water. Some of them are in different stages of construction. Some of them were constructed halfway. One regime will come and terminate it. And even among the Fulani, House of Fulani leaders themselves. And I pointed out to the President Buhari that he himself terminated the contract of one of the dams that was awarded by Iyorwuese Hagher. And when General Babangida took over from him, re-awarded the contract. And then General Bacha, when he took over, he cancelled the contract again. So there's a level of which the leadership has not looked at the future, carefully planned, and now we have a situation of an emergency, and they are looking the other way and allowing one group that has power to move over and rid another group of his land, because the Miete Ally has clearly stated its objective. They have even boasted, they have even challenged the ownership in the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that they were the original owners of the land where some of the Benue communities are living now, and so they want to take their land back. So it's about conquest.
The federal government is proposing cattle colonies as opposed to ranch establishment proposal by your state government. Agric Minister Audogbe has also suggested that states donate lands, provide water and all the infrastructure like you did state. What do you think of the proposal by the federal government?
It's a Trojan horse, and it will be unfortunate. It's unfortunate because the aim of such colonies is undermined already by the timing and the language. And I find it strange that the Minister of Agriculture, who himself is a brilliant linguist and a writer himself, will, unless he's being led by the nose by some power that he has no control, otherwise it's offensive. Colony is conquest. Conquest of a superior power of land that he has no authority over, and intends to administer it from outside the ambit of that community. So obviously, a state that sees that land to the federal government, it is scarce, for the purpose of looking after Fulani herdsmen or herdsmen, as the case may be, whether they are coming from outside this country, because one of the governors actually identified Fulani people outside this country as being responsible for coming in and killing people, and he had to take money to go and appease them outside this country. Unbelievable. So you give your land to the minister to establish a colony, and that colony ends up not being a colony of cows, but a colony of people outside Nigeria, herdsmen, or people of whatever color or whatever persuasion. It is instability. No policy should be a knee-jerk policy in this country. Everything, there should be a cultural or orientation policy. There should be a discussion on environmental studies, cultural studies, and a sense in which the whole communities and governors are jumping up and down without even consulting their people and donating land. They are playing politics with people's lives. Certainly, a force somewhere is undermining the food security of this country. Yes, we are told there are 20 million cattle looking for land, looking for grass, but these 20 million cattle belong to herdsmen that are indigenous to Nigeria. If they are indigenous to Nigeria, each of them has a state. So each of the states should be able to make land available to them. The time has come for us to settle the nomadic Fulani. It is unconscionable for any civilized country, and also an abuse of human rights, to allow young people and a whole community denied access to education, denied modern amenities, tucked away, moving endlessly with cattle that is no longer productive, nor tasty. It is unconscionable. It's pre-modern mentality. This country needs to wake up and achieve and embrace modernity. We're in the 21st century. We should develop science and technology. We should have schools where STEM subjects are taught so that we can contribute the enormous manpower we have. Our young people are the ones that are suffering from this mismanagement and poor leadership. Our young people and the future of this country is at risk. And the world is looking up to Nigeria. The black people of the world are hoping that Nigeria will get its act correct, and that the young Nigerians will be the face of black people of the future, young, energetic, resourceful, highly educated, that are able to compete with every other country at the same level. In fact, it is something that is very worrisome that young Nigerians who study here under very difficult circumstances, when they go abroad, they excel. Nigerians are the best intellectuals in the United States and Great Britain and other countries. They are excelling because the soil in those countries are correct. They are good soils. What Nigeria needs is this good seed, which is the Nigerian youth, should be planted here on the Nigerian soil and allowed to be nourished. Not to be in this very poor environment where there's endless communal clashes, where there is endless strife, where the infrastructure is totally not there. We must have an infrastructure for our youth to be able to produce. This is the situation.
Experts and some of the herdsmen have argued that the colonial grazing routes have been discarded and farm structures now dot their paths. What do you think? Is this the issue?
It's a pathetic nonsense. How would anybody today in the 21st century, after we overthrew colonialism, conveniently find certain attributes of colonial routes suddenly so relevant? The population has increased by over 500% from the time of colonial rule. And if at that time there was so much land to move around, there's no such land. Where in this country can you just have open routes? Yes, the population of cattle is growing too, but the cattle can be contained. If we must move away men so that cattle will feed, the choice should be obvious to us.
Do you see any way out of this?
Yes.
And what's the way out?
Science and technology. Nigeria should embrace best practices. Ranching is the only way. We cannot allow the Fulanis to be the last nomadic society on earth. We have had nomads all over the world, but nomadism does not help. It's not beneficial to the individuals and to the country, as we can see. So we must approach ranching, and each of the herdsmen, the president talked about persuading them. A government does not enter into endless arguments to persuade when you know the right thing should be done to help people. If they say we need 1,000 years, or okay, it's just during your tenure, let's do our nomadic thing during your tenure. When you leave, then we can start about ranching. If you are the president, would you concede to that? If you know that your legacy should be that you ended up nomadism and produced a culture that helped the Fulanis to be integrated into the mainstream of Nigerian life, where their human rights will be protected, where they will be allowed to produce their economic activities of producing herds of cattle that are more productive, more nutritious, and where they can enter into the main economy. This can be done if, and there are enough experts in this country and all over the world to have the information that is necessary. Instead of the minister dashing back and forth on lone crusades, let the whole country be involved in the solution.
Let's look at the politics of this all. you were an ambassador during the People's Democratic Party-led government.
Sure.
Let's look at the attacks between then and now. Is there a difference between what was obtained then and now?
I started observing the pattern in 2013 after I had ended my last tour, which was 2012. As an ambassador, I was too busy representing my country and too busy being, I was far away. But when I resumed my role as a scholar and an intellectual and head of a think tank, I was fascinated by the phenomena. And I can say that we started losing our grip when democracy took forth. You know that democracy has a way of unleashing all kinds of forces. First, it gives freedom, but then that's when, basically, democracy is a police state. Because when there is democracy, there must be policing. Without policing, you can't have, people behave in strange ways. The first genocide against the people of Benue was registered in 2001, just 2 years after we attained the PDP-led government. And the President Obasanjo was then the president. And he acknowledged it, and we forced him within the party, the PDP, to apologize to the Benue people before they voted him back to power. It's a difficult thing to get Obasanjo to apologize, but he did. That same genocide, even though it was denounced by various officers within the army and within those communities, was acknowledged in 2007 when President Umaru Yar'Adua was president, and this was also a PDP government. Yar'Adua went to Benue State with the chief of army staff, and they apologized for that genocide. Of course, the matter went to court, and the court found the government guilty and awarded damages of 40 billion. We don't know what happened with that money up till today. But it was instructive that Nigeria had not yet acceded to the Genocide Convention of the United Nations, which was passed in 1949. It was in 2008 that Nigeria acceded to the Genocide Convention. And the issues of various forces going on in the country, these forces, if unchecked, truly undermine us, and we can go on and on trying to find the causes, trying to find solutions, but only one thing will save us: good leadership, responsible leadership, God-fearing leadership, a leadership that is servanthood rather than command and control. That is what we are looking towards having if all these forces will be somehow contained. Otherwise, it doesn't matter which party is in power. As long as those forces are on and they are unchecked, are unbridled, the citizens are at risk.
Yeah. Do the Benue people regret voting President Muhammadu Buhari as against Goodluck Jonathan? And I say this because the presidency, it's a 700 people were so far killed during the last administration of Jonathan by Fulani Herdsmen.
Are you suggesting perchance that since the presidency is justifying so many people killed during President Jonathan, then the new president, Buhari, must match Jonathan's record or exceed it? Well, certainly, Benue regrets that a president that they voted for, out of character, would be insensitive to their plight and allow a genocide to engulf them. Whether he gets voted again or the party is in power again will depend entirely on the Benue people. If in 2001 they regretted voting President Obasanjo for the genocide of that time, and they took him on and they expressed their unhappiness to him, and President Obasanjo listened. And the circumstances at that time were such that it was not an ethnic cleansing that was characterized by another ethnic group, which Obasanjo's ethnic group, for him to take sides with. So this time the sensibilities are different, but I do not know how it will play out. Would the APC have a different candidate from Buhari? Or is Buhari running, as he seems to indicate he wishes to run? And let's see what happens.
Should a state of emergency be declared on Benue?
No. Anybody who has that kind of silly idea has an ulterior motive for that. Why should a state of emergency be declared in Benue? Instead, there should be a state of emergency declared for the whole country. The whole country is reeling in crime. The kidnapping is taking place, armed robberies taking place all the time. People are being killed. And the most perfidious of it all has been gruesome butchering of young people by ritualists. And a whole horde of our young children running out of the country and getting killed on the Mediterranean and going to other countries and becoming prostitutes. They are running away. No. If there is a state of emergency, it is a state of emergency on the state of Nigeria. Certainly not Benue State. And who will do that? No, I'm totally against it, and I'm averse at even the suggestion that somebody will say state of emergency. The Benue people, if they are not satisfied with the governor, they will impeach him. So far, his approval rating is very high.
You called the Miyetti Allah a terrorist group as against an association. What is the difference between Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association and Miyetti Allah Kautal Hore?
To answer your question, there is absolutely no difference. When Boko Haram came up with their own version of terror, they wanted the public to assume a name that was different from Boko Haram, and the public said, no, we'll rather stick to Boko Haram. I don't care how many versions of Miyetti Allah that you have or are given to us. I think they are merely trying to confuse us. They are Miyetti Allah that hire herdsmen terrorists who are the fourth most dreadful terror group on earth to execute their most gruesome clashes, and in this case, a crime of genocide against the people of Nigeria.
Thank you, Professor, for your time.
pleased to be here.